Hello everyone and welcome to this lesson. This is the first in a series of lessons where we're going to be looking at the different chart types that you might find in your IELTS Academic Task 1 writing exam. This obviously on the board behind me is a line graph and it is a change over time graph. I'll explain what that means in a second. We are going to, over the course of a series of videos, look at all of the different types of graph or chart that you may experience within the IELTS academic writing exam, but we're starting with a change over time line graph because this is the most popular. So let's get started. This lesson, this particular lesson and this series of lessons is all about identifying the key points on a chart, on a graph, on any kind of flow diagram that you may receive. So that's our focus immediately, identifying the key points. And a lot of people get confused about what are the key points on a graph or a chart. And there's no need to get confused because you're given all sorts of information. As well as a chart, a graph, there's usually a little bit of an explanation, some writing to go with it as well, which will help you to identify some key points. But what we're going to do is just basically take a standard line graph like this and we're going to work through trying to identify what we believe are the key points. Now, how many key points do you think there are in a chart like this? It's a very difficult question to answer, but my suggestion to you is there are definitely more than one, and you probably want to look for around about 5. Okay, so there's more than one, less than 5. Okay, that's a good rule of thumb. So some key points, places to find information, key points. So we have the number of visitors. Well, actually, before I start, let me explain what this chart is. There's no writing or written explanation here, and I would just like to point out that this is not copied from any official IELTS materials. This is just something I drew on the board myself. So what we're showing here is the number of visitors to various different museums over a period of time, 1980 to 2015, and the number of visitors are shown in the millions. Yeah? So it's a very, very simple, very basic change over time. Let's clarify what change over time means. Change over time basically is a chart of any type that shows a difference between yesterday, today and perhaps tomorrow. Yeah? And I mentioned tomorrow because in IELTS sometimes you will be given a chart or a graph that demonstrates the future as well. Okay, but mostly, as with this one, the charts are all based in the past. Yeah, so it's changed between 1980 to 2015. That is all change over time is. We are showing change, how the number of visitors changed between 1980 and 2015. Change over time. That's all it means. Yeah. So where do we start to look for the key points? Well, the number of visitors is in the millions. Okay, so understanding this, what this means, is a key point. So these figures are in millions. So this is a key point. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to underline, or I'm going to do what I suggest you guys should do when you're practicing for your exam and actually in the exam itself. When you think you have found a key point, something that's important, highlight it. Yeah, just like that. Okay, so we have 3 museums, the Louvre in Paris, the Vatican in Rome, and the Guggenheim in Spain, in Bilbao. So we have one key point. Now, other key points on a graph or a chart would possibly be, and I'm just giving you suggestions, some easy places to start. Okay, the beginning and the end of something. Yeah? the beginning and the end. In this case, we actually have 3 different lines showing different information. You may just have one line, you may have more than 3, but the beginnings and the ends, where something starts, where something finishes, you can identify as being key points. It starts here, it finishes here, and that is something that you can describe in your writing. So you could do that for every single one of these lines. The start and finish points. Now, something else that we can look at is highs and lows. The highest point of any line on this chart is about here. And the lowest point on a chart is here. And immediately we have identified what might be another key point. The lowest point and the highest point, okay, are all associated with the same museum. Yeah? So the lowest point and the highest point on the graph, that is potentially key information that we can describe. Yeah, but it's not the only information. Other key points, okay, might be where lines cross. Yeah? This might be a key piece of information for you to write about. In fact, these 3 points might be key pieces of information for you to write about in your essay. What else is there on here? Key points. Well, another thing that you can do is start thinking right now about your different paragraphs. Okay, because you want to write maybe 2 paragraphs. One paragraph about one thing on the chart, another paragraph about something else on the chart. And it's worth trying to look at your graph or your chart, and trying to decide, where can I create some form of split in the chart data to help me create 2 paragraphs. Okay. Now, what you can do with change over time is you can choose, let's choose perhaps a central time, so a central point might be about here, okay, and you can perhaps simply draw a line, and anything on this side of the line becomes what you write about in paragraph 1, anything on this side of the line becomes what you write about in paragraph 2. Yeah? That's one way you can split. Obviously here we have 3 different museums. Now, if there are any similarities between any of these museums and the data that we have, we could combine those together. So, for example, it appears that the Louvre has seen massive growth. So this could be paragraph 1, and then we could link or put both of these 2 pieces of data together in the second paragraph. Yeah, so that's another way that we can identify paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. Yeah, sometimes you might be able to split your chart in that direction. Sometimes you might be able to split your chart in that direction. Yeah, doesn't really matter. All that's important is that you split your data logically. Yeah. Find the most logical way to combine bits of data together and use it. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to suggest here in this chart is I am going to link that bit of data, these crossing points. It's logical because it's when one piece of data intercepts with another piece of data, and we have 3 of them in this chart. So I'm going to make those 3 points paragraph 1, and then everything else would become paragraph 2. Yeah, but that's just me. I want you guys to start thinking about, practicing and looking at charts to identify, the key data. Let's not forget the key data is also down here in the dates. Yeah, this is key data. This is key information. These are years, and it's key information for you to talk about and mention. And the final thing that I want to talk about which is mentioned in almost every IELTS writing tutorial for this kind of task, is the overall trend. Now, take a look at this chart, if you will, and tell me, can you guys identify the overall trend? What can you see? You'll have to forgive all of the scribbling that I've done, but there is an overall trend. I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can identify what you think the overall trend is. It's not obvious, but there is an overall trend there. And we can work out an overall trend, okay, by doing some simple mathematics. 15 plus 10 plus 5 equals 30. Yeah, I'm good at math. Okay, whereas over here, okay, so we have this line here which is 10, this line here which finishes at, I'm going to say 12, and this line here which finishes at 15. So 15 plus 12, 27, 37. So we have 30 going towards 37. Yeah. So our overall trend, i.e. the overall number of visitors, has increased from 1980 to 2015. Our overall trend is doing this. Okay. Our trend is increasing. Yeah. And we have mathematical proof of that. We have 30 million visitors, which is now 37 million visitors. That is an increase over the years. Yep. So, I hope this has given you a good insight into how you can identify what information is important in a line graph with multiple lines in a changeover time chart. Like I said, this is just an introduction to get you started. You have to practice. I want you guys to go onto the internet, take a look at the official samples that you can get from the IELTS, IELTS website, the British Council websites. Okay, have a look at their data, have a look at their sample questions, and do this task. Yeah, just get a pen and just try and identify the information. You definitely need more than one thing to talk about, and ideally you want about 5 things so that you can then select 2 or 3 of the best things to include, because there's absolutely no way in my essay I can actually write about all of these individual things. I just don't have the time or the word count. So what I have to do is just spend a minute quickly just identify key things, key points like highs and lows, starts and finishes, anything that might look interesting where 2 bits of data cross over. Just try and identify things like that and then decide, can you write about it? If you can write about it and it's logical to do so, then great. If you can't write about it or you think it's not logical, then just ignore it afterwards. Yeah? Right. So, this is the first in a series of videos trying to help you with your IELTS writing. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to contact me and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. In the meantime, it's time for you guys to get some practice in and also move on to the next video tutorial.